Well, the Department of Justice and former President Trump both submitting proposals for special master candidates to review evidence seized in the raid of Mar-a-Lago last month. The filing comes just a day after the DOJ appealed federal judge Eileen Cannon's ruling that a special master was necessary. So here to react, Fox News legal analyst Gregg Jarrett. Greg, great to see you this morning. Before we kind of get into the candidates being put forward by both sides, can I ask you this? Does it matter? Has the FBI and the DOJ not already gone through all of the documents? Can a special master truly at this point set aside knowledge within the documents?
I am absolutely confident that what Merrick Garland has represented to the court, that nobody on the investigative team at the DOJ has looked at these confidential documents, attorney-client privilege, not to mention executive privilege. I have no doubt they've already looked at it. In fact, the judge, Judge Cannon, pointed out in a ruling that, you've made a false representation here, that we know at least of 2 incidents in which investigators have already looked at the privileged documents. So, yeah, they've already seen the stuff, which invites the question, is that what Merrick Garland was really after with this broad, expansive search? Did he go in there wanting to know the communications between Trump and his lawyers relative to a wide variety of things? That's a pretty good bet.
Right. So, Greg, let me just follow that up out of my own limited knowledge here. So let's say a special master does come in then and is appointed and set certain documents off limits. Does that then compromise any potential future investigations by the DOJ as, and this is where I'm a little bit over my skis, but fruits of the poisonous tree? You saw things you shouldn't have seen. You can now not therefore pursue that investigation.
Yes, it would be up to the trial court judge to make that determination. But I also suspect that somewhere down the road, the Trump legal team will make a more aggressive motion that this was an unlawful search and seizure under the Fourth Amendment, because read the warrant. It was a general warrant. That's strictly forbidden by the Fourth Amendment. Mm-hmm. And you're right. The exclusionary rule dictates that materials unlawfully obtained may not be used in any criminal proceeding. So it may be more than simply the privileged documents. It could be everything.
So I want to ask you this, Greg, while I have you this morning. What happened to the Supreme Court leaker? Justice Neil Gorsuch has given us some insight that there is an investigation going on, that Chief Justice John Roberts has put together some sort of insight. But a shockingly long period of time has gone on, Greg. And, I mean, from the outside, at the very least, it seems a lack of interest, or at the minimum, a lack of accountability. What's going on with identifying the Dobbs case's Supreme Court leaker?
Well, there are a couple of problems. I've never been convinced that Chief Justice John Roberts really wants to know who the leaker is to get to the bottom of it. I think he would prefer that everybody just move on and overlook it. It was such a humiliation and an embarrassment for the court. If they do identify the leaker, yeah, those are crimes. I mean, it's theft of government property, and it's obstruction of justice, interfering with a legal proceeding. And whoever the leaker is, not only should lose their license to practice law, but should be criminally prosecuted.
Right.
But, because the Supreme Court didn't bring in the FBI or federal marshals, instead had their own investigation, I'm not sure they're competent to accomplish it.
Yeah. You would think, by the way, we'd at least seem, you're right about the disbarments and the criminal prosecution. How about losing your job? Like, I think we would notice, right, if a clerk had lost their job in the last couple of months. So the leaker, assuming it's a clerk, is still there.
Yeah, except there is a turnover at the end of term of most of the clerks.
Is that during the summer, Greg?
You have a mass exit and new ones coming in. So, it's really hard to determine it from that. And it could have been somebody who's not a clerk, an employee of the court who had an agenda.
Really quickly, Greg, is that turnover in clerks over the summer? Is that when it would have happened?
Yeah, usually you start a new term with a new set of clerks.
Right.
Sometimes there's a holdover, but not always.
Okay. It could also have been one of the justices themselves, but we'll never know unless we get some accountability. All right, Gregg Jarrett, great conversation this morning. Thank you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.